Hello, Bruce.
Yes.
Bruce.
Hi,
Shannon.
Hey, Shannon. Man, I was the first one on the super conference line. I was going like, "Ooh, wow."
Did they play that weird song?
Yes, they did.
When
I had my head kind of bobbing back and forth a little bit, going like, that doesn't sound like Shannon playing on that or anything, but no.
Yeah, man. I do interviews, and sometimes I'll have to wait on the line, and they just play that song over and over. I'm like, I told Sully, I was like, dude, have you ever heard this song? It's the weirdest '80s pop, and he goes, dude, that was a giant hit. I never even heard it before.
Oh, it's a giant hit, and people get ridiculed sometimes for playing it. It's like, but it's a big old popular one. Now it's going to be stuck in your head for a while.
Yeah, man, and that's a torture.
Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. I just wanted to take a few minutes just to chat with you on your up and coming show coming to San Antonio, and ask you a few personal, musical questions, and then we'll call it a day. How's that?
Excellent.
Okay, and I'm pre-recording this, so if there's anything that I want to add later, I won't be deleting anything. So it'll so say what you will. Okay, you ready?
Say what you will. You will.
And who did that song?
Fastway.
Ah, here we go. All right, we're in there, man. So here we go. South Texas has some up and coming concerts, some awesome ones as well for 2019, and San Antonio is no exception. Coming April the 9th to the Freeman Coliseum, it's Godsmack, and I had the privilege of talking with the concussionist. The drummer for Godsmack, Shannon Larkin. Afternoon, my good man.
Good afternoon. It's good to talk to you.
Yes, indeed. Man, it's always great having you guys in San Antonio, and it's been a while since I've had the chance to see you guys live. I'm going to go... I'm so embarrassed. I'm going to go as far back as the Godsmack 4 2006 tour with Rob Zombie. That is the last time I saw you guys, and I have my T-shirt in the closet there, ready to be worn again.
We still remember that tour and look back on it real fondly because the Rob Zombie and his band were just so cool, and it was just such a successful tour for our fan bases, and we've remained friendly over the years. He's awesome.
That's cool. I mean, it was such a great show, and it was at the Verizon Amphitheater here in town, which is not used for concerts anymore, but love seeing you guys in climate-controlled arenas as well, too. Those are pretty cool.
Yes, and we like that the best, too. The festivals are fun. They're huge crowds, and, oh, man, we've been around for 20 years, so we know every band, so it's like a big family reunion. So we love festivals, but there's nothing better than going indoors and the lights go out and you can control the show.
Oh, man.
You really work on the production, and we've been doing that just for years and years. That's why we're not rich. We spend all our money on production.
Yeah, and on cymbals. No, I'm sorry, you don't have to do that on cymbals. You got plenty of people throwing cymbals at you, don't you?
Yes, I'm a Sabian guy.
There you go.
Their hearts, because that, as a kid growing up, man, it was I just have to mow lawns and shovel driveways from snow, and just to get those cymbals, man, because I broke them even as a kid.
Oh, I can believe that. Okay, so I'm going to start right there. So to become a drummer extraordinaire like you are, you had to start somewhere. So who were your biggest influences? And did you start like a lot of drummers with pots and pans, or did you use the cardboard 3-tom setup?
Well, firstly, thanks for the compliment. And secondly, I was beating on stuff as long as I can remember, but I never really had a conscious decision to want to be a drummer until I heard. I was rocking these K-Rock records. I don't know how old you are, but there used to be things on television, and they would have all the hits, and you'd order these things on television.
Yes,
from TV, and they were like, K-Rock presents or whatever, and it hit. So
oh yeah, it was K-Tel presents.
K-Tel, yes, yeah. Exactly.
That was it.
So like 8 or 9 years old, I'm asking my parents for these kind of records, and my parents weren't musicians, but they were very musical. And one time, I guess I was 9, maybe 10, and my sister came into my room. My sister was 2 years older than me. And she said, your music sucks. Listen to this, and gave me Rush Hemispheres.
Oh.
And it was on Rush Hemispheres on red vinyl. I still have the record to this day. With her, she wrote, back then you'd write your name on the record. My sister's name's written on it because, she'd take it to parties or whatever. Anyway, and so after I realized, yes, my music sucks and this rules, I went back to my sister, and Neil Peart obviously spoke to me as a drummer.
Yes.
I say obviously not because of my skills, but because he spoke to everybody. So I go back in, I go, you were right, Rush rules. What else you got? And she gave me Zeppelin 2. And that was when I asked for a drum. I asked for a drum set for Christmas that year. That did it. John Bonham did it. Spoke to my soul, man.
Oh, you're born again. Golly, that's awesome. That is cool. So I was looking at some of the background story here. Candlebox and Ugly Kid Joe. If memory serves me, I swear Ugly Kid Joe was a San Antonio staple at one time.
Yeah, I was in Ugly Kid Joe for 6 years, made a couple records, toured the world, had some great, great times, still good friends with every dude. And, they're back at it, man. They took like a 17-year break. In that time I did a band called Amen and then joined Godsmack 16 years ago. But, yeah, they're back. They came back, and I recorded a new record with them. This was like 3 years ago called Stairway to Hell.
Yes, I saw that on the thing there.
And I went out, and we went out and toured for a little bit in between, Godsmack when we had some time off. And but since they've got a new drummer, Zach Morris, amazing human, they're still an amazing band. Candlebox I was never in. My manager in my band Amen managed Candlebox.
Oh, okay.
And Amen had just completed a new record for Virgin, so we had like the 3-month setup time in which the band wasn't working, and we had that time off. Well, Candlebox's drummer, Dave Cruzen, at the time of the Happy Pills, disappeared.
Oh, my gosh.
And, 2 weeks before the tour. And so my manager, who was their manager, called and said, hey, man, we got a MIA here. Can you learn the set and try out for this tour? And I said, sure, man. I loved Candlebox, much as the next guy. And it was another, just a thing that was meant to be in my life. I ended up being dear friends with Pete and Kevin, and to this day,
it's great memories.
See these guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and great stories. I mean, who can tell a story like that? That is awesome. That's awesome to do. Okay, so you're helping me segue into some of these questions very well, and thank you very much for doing that. It makes my job a lot easier. But so you've been with Godsmack since 2002. How was the audition process to grab that slot when Tommy left?
Well, firstly, there was no audition. I'd known Sully for 15 years before I joined Godsmack. We were friends, and every time I'd come through, I met him, his band, he was the drummer for, called Lex Luthor, and they were in Carolinas, and my band, Rothschild, had come through, and Lex Luthor got the opening gig. I saw him play, and, we ended up at my hotel partying all night and exchanged numbers, and we're bros ever since.
Wow.
And so when I moved to California, joined Ugly Kid Joe. Well, when that ended, I hooked up with Amen, and we got signed to Roadrunner through Ross Robinson, right? And who was famous at the time for discovering Korn, Limp Bizkit. So it was a big deal to me. And so, a couple months after I signed on the dotted line to Roadrunner with Amen, Sully calls me, my bro, my drummer friend. He's like, hey, man, I put the sticks down, picked up the mic. I'm singing in this band. We have every major label in the world calling to sign us. We're kicking ass in New England, and it's on. I want you to drum. And I was like, oh, man, I just signed a deal with Amen, this punk band. He's like, oh, shit, okay. So turns out they came out, and their first record sold 5 million copies. And, of course, Amen came out and sold 5,000 copies. And I was like, oh, well. So I'm like, I guess it's, it's not in the cards for me to be a success in this business. Well, so flash forward a couple years later, a couple records with Amen. Had a great time, by the way. Made prep records I'm very proud of. Very
cool.
Punk rock stuff.
Cool.
Not commercial punk. It's old school. But life went on. The band wasn't successful. I got married. My wife was pregnant. I quit Amen. 2 weeks later, a phone called. Phone rings. It's Sully, and he's all, dude, we're parting ways with Tommy.
Oh.
You want in? There's no audition. You're in. The only prerequisite is you must get along with Tony and Robbie. You do that, you're in the band.
Oh,
and so I'm flying to Boston thinking, God, I hope these guys are cool, because I love Sully,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I knew we got along. And so I get there. I was nervous for about 5 minutes until I met Tony and Robbie, and they're just the coolest, most down to earth New Englanders that park their car in the garage, and we've been good friends ever since, and that's a testament to our longevity. We all four really get along.
I was going to say, I mean, Sully, Tony, Robbie, and you are the road family, the main deal there. But being a bassist that I am, the drummer and the bassist, I feel, are the backbone of the group. I'm just very partial to that. And you guys click like there's no tomorrow. And do you guys somehow share the same brain on stage?
Yeah, with Robbie, we're at that stage of drummers and bass players that can just read each other's mind.
You know the moves before they're going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, and it's nothing's planned. We don't plan on any moves or whatever. But even like Phil's, when Robbie starts to go, I can follow him really easy because I know his style so well now.
Right.
She's 16, 17 years, whatever it's been, a long damn time, and it's a beautiful thing. It's chemistry, and a lot of people don't realize how important chemistry is in a band. You can have the greatest bass player, greatest drummer, greatest singer, greatest guitar player, and put them all four together, and the band sucks.
Yeah.
Because if there's no chemistry,
That's exactly right.
With that said, too, you can have a mediocre bunch of actual technically skilled players, but write great songs and have this chemistry, like Ramones or whatever, and they're legendary. So it's all about, to me, chemistry. And within 1 week, I feel that when I joined the band, we had immediate chemistry. And that first week, we wrote the song straight out of line together. So, which ended up, being a hit for us.
That is so awesome. And then, of course, now you got the new album, Legends Rise. It's the 7th album, the full album, basically. So why was there? They're saying a 4 years difference between the last album and now.
Yeah, every record since I've joined, it's been 4 years. In fact, we waited 6 months for the release of Legends Rise, so that it would be 4 years before our new record.
We don't want to change. Don't change tradition.
Well, what it is, you can look at the gold records or number one hits of which we have many, and we're proud of that. But the thing we're most proud of is longevity, and I feel, and the whole all the four of us agree that. And listen, we understand that we're truly lucky and we're blessed to be able to afford to do this, but taking a year off. So we'll take a whole year and write and record at our leisure with no pressure in a whole year's time, right? To write and record a new record. And then we'll go and tour it for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And we love to tour. That's the staple. That's our reward, the touring part. So 2 years is, and it's not constant. We'll have little breaks in between tours of 5 weeks sometimes here, so it's still work, but we love that part of it. And then we take a year apart from each other. And how that, I feel, helped our longevity is, not only for 3 years straight are we in each other's grill, constantly living on buses, hotels, airplanes. We're always together.
Oh, that makes sense.
So that year apart gives us a little space.
Yeah.
And furthermore, when we're apart, Sully does solo work, which is very piano-driven. Tony and I do a blues band, the Apocalypse Blues Review.
Okay.
And so we're playing different genres of music with different musicians, and so that gives us a little break from the machine that Godsmack has become.
Right. It just keeps everything fresh.
keeps everything fresh. And another plus to it, being able to take a year off, is then when we do finally get back together, not only is it fresh, but we really appreciate what we have as a band, as a career, as humans. That, because not many bands had a longevity, and so all the records and awards and accolades, our proudest badge of honor is that word, longevity.
Exactly, and congratulations on that too, by the way. And I hope you keep going. Just keep going with it, and we'll look forward in the next 4 years for another album if it all still holds.
Thanks, man. I tell you what, man. This time we talked about pumping another one out a little quicker, just because we do feel time pressing, and that's another thing I was going to mention about the luxury of being able to take a year off is that also someone had mentioned you guys seem to have moved rolled with the punches, and you seem to, without changing your sound too drastically, to be able to move in with the trends and stay modern sounding, right, throughout 20 years.
Right.
And where a lot of bands from the 90s just simply didn't roll with they didn't change enough to stay relevant, right? And so I also attribute that to putting records out 4 years apart.
That's cool.
The growth happens. It's kind of like if you get a koi fish, right? And I have a koi pond, so I'll put a koi fish in, a new one. It's little. It's maybe 4 or 5 inches, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then I'll be home for 3 months, and I don't see any kind of growth because I'm there every day seeing it, right? But then my daughter comes to visit and says, oh, my God, that one's getting so big. And I'm like, really?
That is a very good point.
It's kind of like that with the band, so over a 4-year period, we are changing as we age and mature. And like the new record especially, we all consciously came together and said, you know what, we're all over 50 now.
Mm-hmm.
And the bands that we play with that are harder, like we used to be, harder metal sounding rather than more just rock like we are, well, it morphed into that slowly. And it's because mainly the new record's production, we went with a new modern sound and used a producer, songwriter to help us do it and everything, simply because we really are trying to be real here. We're not young, angry, and full of piss and vinegar anymore. We all made that big transition to 50, and we have kids and families, and Tony and I have been sober now. Tony over 4 years, me over 3 years. We're trying to stay real here and not act like I don't know, we're something we're not. And so bands like Avenged Sevenfold, who have played shows with us,
mm-hmm.
and I'd say, oh, how old are they? They're in their 30s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, so they can still, play that heavy, badass music, and they're still, I think it's a young man's game, that heavy music. And there was music I listened to, oh my God, in the 80s, like Napalm Death or whatever, that
mm-hmm.
now in my 50s, it doesn't sound good to my ears anymore even. I'm like, how did I love that so much?
Well, you know what? I never really even paid that much attention to, bands like yourself in regards to age. It didn't even dawn on me when you said that we reached our 50s. I was going to say, get out. No way. Because I'm 55. So, and I've been playing music since 82, but, it's you don't have to look old, to play great music. I can't tell, age-wise.
Yeah,
it's sweet. It's awesome, man. And y'all, you guys can put a lot of the younger ones to shame. So that's...
Well, thanks, man. Thank you. Music definitely keeps you young. And I don't feel like I'm 51 years old, man. I really don't, and I certainly don't act like it. And
no, and that's good. That's awesome. That is so awesome.
Age is a mind frame.
Yeah.
But with that said, I also am trying to be conscious that I'm aging, and so hence quitting drinking or whatever.
Right.
I was abused for many, many, many years, and in this business, it's expected even of us, and so it was a part, and that this brings me to, if I can talk for a second, we have this new song called Under Your Scars, right? And so it's this beautiful song. It's our first ballad. 20 years in, Sully sat down at the piano after having done a couple solo records and getting really good, by the way. He's one of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
He picks up an instrument. And like 3 years after he learned, he sat down and taught himself how to play piano. And
oh, my gosh.
Later, he can play a fucking Elton John song by ear. And I'm like, really? But anyway, so he's that kind of talent. Well, he sat down in the studio. We had already recorded a few songs, and he just said, listen to this, guys. Played Under Your Scars, sang all the lyric. And we were like, holy shit, dude. Well, he's like, yeah, but we don't do ballads. I save it for the solo stuff. And I'm like, you know what, dude? Fuck it. You know, we are here, and we don't have anything to hide. It's all about. That's why that song took the longest on the record to record, because it metamorphed into so many different arrangements. Because we're not stupid. We don't want to be cheesy ballad rock guys. So we tried to put a lot of time and effort into the actual writing and production of that song,
right?
To where we didn't think it didn't verge into cheeseball territory. Well, and this is the part I really want to stress, man. From the lyric of that, when Under Your Scars, basically he's saying to this person that, there's you need not be ashamed of whatever it is that's making you of your obesity, for instance, or addictive personality, or depression, or whatever it is, that suicide causing thoughts, right? And so and the basic hook being, show your scars. As long as you can live with your scars, and then maybe you can live with mine.
Wow.
Because none of us are perfect, right? And so it's a beautiful lyric, beautiful melody, beautiful song. Well, it inspired my boy Sully to say, dudes, we're all very successful, and let's give something back. This is real shit, man.
Yeah.
We opened the Under Your Scars Foundation. I mean, we paid, whatever it was, Charles Schwab company or whatever. We set up a nonprofit organization. In fact, it was Edwin Charles.
Okay.
It's nonprofit organization. So every cent, and all we have to do is we can sign any guitars and do events and sponsor benefits.
Yeah.
And every 100% of the money goes to. And here's the beautiful part. It goes to any organization we want. In other words, we're not just a cancer foundation. We're not just an addiction foundation. We're not just depression.
Yeah.
There's not one. It's a broad umbrella of scars that people may carry. So, and we can. It's just, we're really excited because, to me, since it is a nonprofit and there's no other reason to do this except for to help people, then we get a big bag full of karma. Good karma back, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So is there a website? Is there a website people can go to see this?
Not yet. But last week, Sully started the legal things with this Edwin Charles company, and so, but it's a reality, and but I do a lot of the press for the band. I'm told I can start telling people about it because it's super righteous, It's like we're this hard rock band, and we can fucking do all this good shit.
There is another side to you guys, and that's sweet.
Yeah, man. It feels good, dude. That's all.
It does. It feels good. It feels good when you can doing what all you can do to give back, and to see the reaction of that it's very fulfilling. Yeah. Yeah. So,
long time overdue.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job, and I appreciate that too. I want to thank you for taking the time. I got one more question I want to ask you, and I try to keep my questions not as the same old thing where you have all your answers written down and you know what somebody's going to ask. Obviously you're going to have your standard questions and things. But when I told my son, I said, guess who I get to interview on Tuesday? And he said, I don't know. And I said, I get to interview the Shannon Larkin with Godsmack, the drummer. Oh no, Dad, that's badass. He's the drummer with the crazy arms, man.
Yeah, Nice.
And I said, well, he and I think on the same thing. And Crazy Arms. I'm looking at it's just an optical illusion watching you play sometimes. But it's like on The Enemy and Bad Religion when you do that signature alternating hi-hat snare thing.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
I have to put it in slow motion to see how you do that.
There's a real story, and I broke my collarbone. I was playing basketball, and I had a hoop right in my backyard, and I jumped on the ball, and it landed on. I landed on it the left side, and then a kid who was also jumping on the ball landed on my back, and I heard it snap.
God.
And then and at the time, I was 9 years old, 10 years old tops.
Yeah.
And so at the time, they put you in a hard cast.
Oh my gosh!
So my left hand, my wrist was sticking out like above my nipple, right?
Oh.
But my elbow was tucked into my body and hard cast around my whole rib cage and back, right? Back then. And now they don't even do that anymore. Now you just have to wear a sling. But
yeah,
I had his hard cast for like 4 weeks, and so I said to the doctor, "Well, I have my wrist. Can I still play the drums?" And he said, "Well, sure. I don't see why not." And so I raised my snare drum way up, and I put my hi-hat way down.
Oh.
So now, as a musician, bass player, that probably 99% of us play with our right hand, unless you're left-handed. But your dominant hand is higher than your snare hand for the hi-hat, right?
Yes.
Follow me? Like the right hand goes over the left hand. So my hi-hat hands cross over my... Well, now that I have my hand basically casted up above my nipple.
Right.
So I raised my snare really high, still have my wrist, right?
Wow.
And lower my hat. So now my left hand is above my right hand.
Ah.
So long story short, after playing like that for a month, and then I get the cast off. So I moved the drums back to normal where the hi-hat's high and the snare is low. And I'm thinking, well, I'm used to playing with my left hand over my right now. So to get back into the normal position, then I leave my snare hands now my left hand. I cross that to the left to my hi-hat, and then I don't have to miss a beat because I can hit the right hit hit the snare hit with my right hand there, and then immediately the next snare hit and next hi-hat crosses over. And when I did that sounds confusing as hell that I just said it, but if I was showing you, it's pretty simple actually. And so it's a 3-part move in which you never miss a beat on the hi-hat, but I can switch from top with my left hand to bottom with my left hand.
That is so cool. And that when those songs starts, you got the drum. I mean, you got the bass and the guitar and Sully doing his stuff. I'm sorry, I have no idea what they're doing because all my attention is on the drummer watching what you're doing. And it's amazing. It's a conversation piece to itself, and it's so awesome. I just have to let you know.
Oh, thanks, man. I was when that happened to me, and my guys in my band, it was Ratchild. It was my first band. I grew up with these dudes. 12 years we were together until we finally signed to Atlantic, and we toured in a band for 6 years and all this stuff. But when I first started doing that, they were like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was like, my thing was, at the time, I'd never seen any drummers do anything basically but sit there, besides Neil Peart, who would throw his sticks 50 feet in the air, but he wasn't a showman when it came to like his actual performance. He would throw his sticks. That was his show. So every other drummer I saw just sat there. And I was like, my favorite musician at the time, even though I was a drummer, was Angus Young, because he was just all over the place, madman.
Oh yes.
So I was like, I'm gonna be Angus Young of the drums.
There you go.
That was my big statement.
and you're doing a great job of it, and the fans love it.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
Well,
so
hey,
appreciative.
Yeah, and I appreciate you taking the time, and we're looking forward to having you guys back in San Antonio. It's April the 9th at the Freeman Coliseum. I'm sure there's no problem with it being sold out, and thanks for putting rock back here where it belongs.
Yes, we always love playing San Antonio, always, and we always have great shows there. So we're excited again to come, and I think we're bringing Bull Beat with us. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, that's going to be cool. So, hey, don't click off on me when I get through here. I want to just ask you something when we're done, okay?
Okay.
All right, appreciate it. I was talking with Shannon Larkin from Godsmack. Mark one off my bucket list, my friends. Now back to more music, and thanks for rocking.